Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I am launching a new series. This is going to be a year-long series for 2020, and it is going to be a quilt block series, a stash buster series. And I decided to do this now with the new year starting. A lot of people make resolutions for the year, which I normally don't do because I wind up not sticking to them, so I just don't do it anymore. But what I do like to do is to set quilting goals for myself, and last year it was to get through as many of my unfinished projects as I could, and I've gotten through quite a few of them. I still have some to go, but I'm going to continue doing that. But what I also want to do is kind of work through my fabric stash. So I'm going to be doing, once a week, I'll be doing a new block, and I'm going to show you all how I'm doing this. They're going to be 8-inch and 12-inch finished blocks, and they're going to be either 4-patch or a 9-patch style. And these are all going to be designs that are in the public domain, so there's no copyright issue going on. For this series, what you will have by the end of the year is 52 quilt blocks that you can put into one quilt or 2 quilts or 3 quilts or whatever you want. You can use them for pot holders, you can use them for table runners, pillow covers. You know, there's a lot of different things you can do with them, just like this quilt back here. The blocks that we did for those, you know, we talked a little bit about different things that you could do with those. So today, what I want to do is go over some tips of things that you can do to get prepared for this and to choose your fabrics. Now, I'm going to use fabrics that I already own. I'm not going to buy any more if I can avoid it, and because my goal is to bust my stash. I want to get use up the fabrics that I already own. So this will be a real scrappy quilt. And if you've looked closely at vintage quilt tops, a lot of them are scrappy, and there's really no theme really to the fabrics that they used in them. A lot of times they didn't even contrast, the pieces didn't contrast very well. But I know with my quilt stash, I have a wide variety of different styles of fabric. I have batiks, I have hand-dyeds, I have brights, I have pastels, I have Christmas fabrics, I have children's prints, you know, I have solids, I have just a wide variety of things, and mixing them all together may not be the best choice for a cohesive looking quilt top. So what I'm wanted to do was to kind of give you some tips, the things that you can look at in your stash and see if you want to do a completely scrappy quilt, or if you want to sort through your fabrics and choose, be very particular about which ones you choose. Now, if you look at 1920s fabrics and 1930s fabrics, they have things in common. Even 1940s, the 1920s, the prints were small, but the colors were kind of muted. Now the 1930s, the prints may be small, but the colors were clear. They were kind of on the pastel side, but they were clear colors. They're not muted. There's no toning. There's no gray or black in the colors. They're all clear. And in the 1940s, we go back to the darker colors, but the prints were all large. So they kind of had a cohesive look anyway. Now, nowadays, you know, we save our scraps, and the trend of fabrics changes so fast that you could have fabrics from 10 years ago that are not going to go well with what you may have today. So one of the things I wanted to do was to kind of give you tips on things you can look for, and help you decide what you want to do. So I've got my little notebook here. This is one of those that I made in one of my videos on notebook covers, and this is what I've been working on so far. The one I made for this year for my quilting organization is full, so I've started a second one. So anyway, back to the subject at hand here. You can choose your fabrics kind of by theme. If you've got a lot of Christmas fabrics that you want to use up, you have a lot of kids prints that you want to use up, maybe it's all florals, or maybe you have a lot of fall fabrics, you know, with the oranges and the browns and tans and colors, yellows, colors like that, you know, fall colors that you want to use. You could also do completely brights, you know, all the primary colors. You could do batiks, and then you could narrow your batiks down as to a color family. Maybe you want a blue and white quilt or a red and white quilt. You could do all pastel colors. You could do all solids. You could do all prints. You could do, if you have 1930s reproduction fabrics, you could do that. If you have 1920s fabrics, if you have Civil War reproduction fabrics, you could use those. And there are a lot of 1880s reproduction fabrics out there now that you could use those. You could do it with shirting fabrics. A lot of those will kind of blend in together, but if you want to mix your shirtings in with some solid fabrics, that would be neat. And then I want to get my color wheel. I want to show you a little bit about things that you could do using a color wheel to help you choose fabrics. I keep a color wheel pinned to my design wall, and I refer to it from time to time. But if you want to do a quilt top with a lot of contrasting colors, you could look at your color wheel, and I've got mine right here. And if you want to start out, say you want to start out with blue, the contrasting color will be directly across the wheel, which contrasting to, it'll be complementary. You use complementary colors. So blue and orange are complementary colors. And then we have yellow would be violet. And red would be green. Just think Christmas colors, red and green. So you can do that. Now if you want to do analogous colors, you want to use colors that are next to each other on the wheel. Like here we've got with greens, blues, and then we go in to the violets with you know, blue green and blue violet, and then you go into red violet. You could switch it to the other side, and then you have the reds, red orange, orange, yellow, and yellow green. So you could do that. This one is nice because it has the triad and different trends that you can use. You have split complementary, which would be like on this one, if we turn it to, okay, I'm going to turn it to blue, and then we're going to follow this narrow triangle here, and that brings you down to yellow orange and red orange. So those three colors will be split complementary, and then you can just turn that and start, or maybe you want to do green, and that would be green, red orange, and red violet. Now if you want to do a split complementary with the green, you've got green, orange, and violet. And we look at yellow with a split complementary, you've got yellow, red, and blue. You got your primary colors. So let's look at orange, and that gives you orange, violet, and green. So if you have access to a color wheel or find one on the internet, this could give you some good ideas on how to choose your fabric colors for your quilt. Now these projects, these blocks, have between 2 and 4 different colors in them. One good thing you could do to kind of keep it cohesive is use one fabric the same throughout all of your blocks. Like say you've got a large piece of a yellow fabric that you want in your quilt, and you believe you have enough to make all of these blocks with it. You probably need a couple of yards, but you could do that and use that yellow fabric, a little bit of it, in each one of your blocks, and that would help pull it together. You could also use the background fabrics in a block. If you look at this block here is this purple and pink, and this is called Tam's Patch. This is one of the first blocks that I'll show you how to do. The background is the white fabric, and so far I've got scraps of this white fabric. I have no yardage. I don't even have a big, nice fat quarter of this. I just have scraps that I've cut off while I was cutting the fabric up to make another quilt. But I have enough that I can make several blocks with that fabric as the background. Now, if I wanted to use this fabric throughout the whole quilt, I would have to purchase more yardage, and I may do that. I haven't decided yet. But you could do that, decide that you want your background fabric to be all white, or you want it to be all cream, or maybe you want it to be a light gray. You may need to purchase the yardage to get you through every single block if you choose to do every single block. Another thing good about this series, though, is if you come through and you find a block that you like, instead of just making one, make several of them. Maybe you don't like every block in this series, don't feel like you have to make it. Just choose the blocks that you like and make as many of them as you want to put in your quilt. As far as other tips, the layout of your quilt is something you also can consider, and you can start thinking of that at the beginning of this series, or you can wait till the end. A lot of times I will decide, okay, I'm going to do this as a straight set, or I'm going to put sashing between each block. But then when I get all my blocks done and I put them on my design wall, I decide I want a completely different layout. So you have the straight set where you have just the blocks are just right next to each other and there's nothing in between. And then like this quilt back here, there's sashing in between them. You could also do them in rows, and you could do them horizontal or you can do them vertical. And with this series, I'm going to be doing 8-inch and 12-inch blocks. And the reason I'm doing that is to make it simpler, the thing would to make them all like 12-inch blocks. Since we have 4 patches and 9 patches, to get those to work together, to fit together all the same size, I would make them all 12 inches, because right now I just have some 4 patches. You've got this is a typical 4 patch. You've got 4 patches in this block. In a 9 patch you have 9. So you've got, if you look at the top row, you've got 2 pieces here. So 2 goes into 12, and on a 9 patch you've got 3 pieces, and 3 will go into 12 evenly, so you don't have any fragments, any fractions to deal with. But I don't have, some of my scraps are pretty small, and I could get a 4.5-inch piece out of most of my scraps. I don't think I could get a 6.5-inch piece out of it. And then when I would compare this block to a 9 patch, these blocks would look blown up, I think, because the blocks that have a solid piece that hasn't been cut up, if I made this into a 12 patch, this piece would be 4 inches bigger, so 2 inches bigger on each side. So this would be a 6-inch piece, and I think that might look kind of off when I'm doing the 9 patches, and I kind of want it to look more like it goes together. But the choice is up to you, and I will give you some instructions on these 4 patches, these 4 patch blocks, and how to make them into a 12-inch block if that's what you want to do. I will have on my blog, I'll have the cutting directions as well as on the video. You'll get those orally, but on my blog you will get the written instruction and photographs of those. If we go back to the layout, you've got, you can use alternate plain blocks between them. You can offset your blocks, like on the Dresden plate quilt that's on my quilting machine over there at the moment. You can put them side by side, but maybe on your 4 patches you want to frame these. So you want to put, maybe alternate these blocks with your 12 patches, and then use a cohesive fabric framing these blocks. Say I want to use maybe pink. If I made all of these pink, purple, and white, then maybe I want to use the pink fabric as the frame throughout these blocks, and then have these butted up next to the 12-inch blocks, and then you've got your layout for your quilt, and your blocks are the same size. So that would mean I would have 2-inch. I'd have to cut 2.5-inch strips of fabric to make the frame around this piece, and then this would be a 12-inch block. So that would work well, and then it would have sashing between each block, and then you know, that'd be a good way to sash your blocks without having to cut you know, the strips and sew the rows together, because they'd already be around your blocks. So anyway, I hope you will join me in this series, and I hope you enjoy it, and let me know what you think. And I'm anxious to get started. I have a couple of the blocks sewn out already, but I'm still going to go through my stash of fabrics and decide specifically how I want to do this. And at the moment, I've just been using pulling scraps out that kind of match my sketches, and I've been using a spiral notebook and sketching out my designs so you can see them here, and then I colored them in with colored pencil. So I just been following those colors at the moment, but that gives me it gives me blocks that maybe don't necessarily go together well. So I am trying to decide how I want to do this. I have a lot of blue fabrics, a lot of green fabrics, and then after that, my next largest stash would be purple, and then probably yellow, and then I have a huge stash of hand-dyed fabrics. I'm not sure they're all going to go together, so I'm going to kind of avoid the hand-dyed fabrics at the moment, but I want to use some of my other fabrics and save those hand-dyeds for something different, I think. So I'm not sure how I can get those to work together. So because they're multicolored hand dyes, they're not solid colored hand dyes, there's multicolors in each piece of fabric, so that might be a little bit difficult to work with. So I think that's about it for this video. So the first block will be coming out next week, and I'm planning to have that ready to go, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you will try a couple of these blocks and let me know what you think. So if you like this video, I hope you will give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will consider subscribing and click that notification bell so that you will be notified when the next video comes up. I do post videos twice a week now, and you will get machine quilting videos as well as piecing videos now. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope to see you again in the next video.
Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my newest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.